everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be something that I have not done before on my channel for sure, and I really don't have a lot of experience with it just in my regular day-to-day life. But today, we're going to tackle some freezer meals. So as I mentioned in a grocery haul video just like a couple weeks ago, November is going to be super busy for me. I have some things going on mid-month, and I'm not going to be able to cook dinner for my family for a little while, or prep breakfast like I normally do, but I don't want to live off of takeout because that just doesn't sound healthy, right? And it's expensive too. And I don't want to just get a whole bunch of freezer meals to get through because that gets boring after a little while. We want like some real food. So I'm going to prep some freezer meals. So I picked out 4 dinner ideas that I'm going to prep and freeze today. And then in a separate video, I'm going to also do 4 breakfasts. So stay tuned for that video too. But for our meals, our dinners, I'm gonna do some, I don't know how you say this. I always call it zuppa toscana, but I think it's actually zuppa toscana. Anyway, it's a copycat of an Olive Garden soup. Then I'm going to make some picadillo. My oldest and my husband absolutely love picadillo burritos. So I thought this is easy. It's like freezing prepared taco meat, really. I'm gonna go ahead and make it and then freeze it. We can pull it out and thaw it and just heat it up on the stovetop or microwave and then make some burritos out of it. I've never had this, but it sounds like really good. Then the last thing I'm gonna prep is some broccoli cheese soup. It's a Panera copycat. However, sorry, my dog just ran into the tripod. Anyway, it's a knockoff of the Panera recipe, but I am not gonna be putting the dairy in this one. So you can freeze cheese soups, but it does not go well. They kind of tend to get kind of grainy when you pull them out. If you buy them frozen, it's different. They have all kinds of stuff in them to keep that from happening. But as an at-home cook, it's a little bit different. So I will not be adding the cheese or the milk to this recipe. I will be freezing the cheese with it. In case you don't know, if you get the bagged shredded cheddar cheese, it freezes beautifully. But anyway, let's get going. I thought we would start with the honey bourbon chicken, just because it's the easiest. Also, I don't like handling raw chicken, so let's get that out of the way first. All right, so I think I have all of my ingredients. Of course, if you've ever watched me cook anything, it's pretty rare that you will ever see me measure anything. Today is no different. I'm gonna just kind of wing it and eyeball it, and it's gonna be fantastic. Also, again, like I said, I don't have any ginger, so that's not going in there. It's cool, work with what you got, Calls for half a cup of soy sauce. I have that much, pretty sure it's about half a cup. Maybe a little less, that's okay. I've got both garlic, and I'm gonna use the blend by Kinder's because it does call for salt and pepper, so I'm just gonna throw some of this in and a little bit of this. Then of course I've got my honey, my bourbon, my chicken, and my ketchup. So first I'm gonna label the bag. Bag, honey, bourbon, chicken, cook for 4 hours, add a cornstarch slurry, and serve over rice. That's about all anyone needs to know. Pretty cut and dry. So let's go ahead and get our ingredients in here. First off, let's get all of the saucy ingredients in here. I don't have like a fancy bag holder. I don't think I have a pitcher to put this in like I see people do, which is really quite novel. I don't have one of those handy baggie holder things. Also don't have like a cheap little pitcher to put this in, but I think it'll hold up okay in this bowl. It's about the best I've got. So first we will add our half a cup of soy sauce. That lid doesn't come off. I think that's probably a little under half a cup, but that is okay. I'm not worried about it. Then it calls for a 1/4 cup of ketchup. Looks about 1/4 cup-ish to me. Let's see, what else? Honey, 1/3 of a cup of honey. There we go. Looks about right to me. Then it calls for a 1/4 cup of bourbon or whiskey. This is probably a little under, but if I add another one, it's gonna be too much. So we'll just go with 1. And in she goes. We're gonna toss in, I'm gonna do about a teaspoon of the blend, which is salt, pepper, and garlic powder, maybe a little under a teaspoon. Probably right about at. Looks good. And garlic. Garlic. All right. My favorite measuring device, kitty spoons. I still have these left over from when my kids were super little, and we still use them sometimes. Handiest thing I have in my kitchen. So I'm doing a big amount of garlic because I feel it in my heart that that is what we want. So I'm gonna kind of stir this around a little bit, try to get things kind of incorporated. Wow, I smell the bourbon first off, which of course will cook off for the most part, but it does smell good. I get little hints of the honey. I definitely get the ketchup and the garlic. This is gonna have a lot of flavor. Gonna have such chicken now. I am like one of those people, I cannot stand touching raw chicken. When I was younger, I actually didn't eat meat for a very long time. And some days I still don't eat meat, even though I cook it a lot, I don't always eat it. But one of the meats that I had the hardest time handling was chicken. Like in my head, this stuff will kill you if you don't like clean everything properly, you know, wear your hazmat suit, the whole bit. I know it's not really that bad, but in my head, that's how it is. So I can't stand handling chicken, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I hate to go put on a pair of gloves for this, mostly because the gloves came in the wrong size and they are really tight on my hands and it's not comfortable. So we're just gonna dive in and then, you know, boil for safety when we're done. Actually, we're gonna go with a knife because there's some fat on here I don't want. I don't mind a little bit of fat on the chicken. I mean, it's thighs, obviously, there's gonna be some fat. But if you've got some really large chunks, which I'm seeing some of these pieces do, you don't want the huge chunks, so we're just gonna take those off. That is our last piece of chicken. We're gonna make sure it's down in there. All right, I'm going to wash up because ew, gross. And then we will deal with the rest of this. All right, so one meal is done, yay. Now we can move on to the next one. I think we're gonna go ahead and go with this Picadillo. This one is pretty simple. I have made this in the past, but I have never made it like this. Normally when I do it, I do not put any kind of tomato sauce in it, which I think is what makes the one my son gets from the takeout place his favorite. He likes to get them from, what is it, Laredo Taco Company, which is in like the Stripes, no, are they called Sunco or Stripes? I think they're still Stripes. Anyway, it's in like the Stripes gas stations. I assume that's kind of a nationwide thing, but I have no clue. Anyway, it's called Laredo Taco Company, and they do breakfast, a lot of breakfast items, and some lunch stuff, but he likes to go in there and get Picadillo. So, I'm gonna give this one a shot. I think he's gonna like it. It looks almost exactly like the one that he gets there. So, except maybe like, I think theirs has like bell peppers or something in it. Looks like it does. Anyway, this one does not, but it's got ground beef. This calls for 1.5 pounds. I have 2. Calls for salt and pepper, cumin, onion, garlic, oregano, tomato sauce, potatoes, beef broth. You can use cilantro for garnish if you want. I am not doing that. And then it says you can serve it over rice or in tortillas. We tend to always eat this as burritos. So anyway, I'm just gonna put it in the freezer, so that doesn't matter right now. Anyway, but let's get to chomping, let's get to cooking. The first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and dice up an onion really quickly. Alright, so realistically, I'm sure fresh potatoes are ideal for this. We're using this. And if it was just me, I would say get the ones that have like the diced up onions and peppers in them, because I think they'd be even better, but my husband does not like that. So we'll just go with these. It says to dice up 2 potatoes, so, and I do have a little bit extra ground beef in here, so we're just gonna kind of eyeball it like this. I think that's about accurate. You want pretty close to an even mix, you know, of beef to potatoey goodness. That looks like Picadillo looks to me. So there we go. All right, we're gonna continue cooking this, and I'm gonna keep an eye on the grease. If my potatoes soak up all of it, perfect. I'm not even gonna bother with the paper towel tray. I'm gonna go ahead and add in this because it calls for salt, pepper, and garlic. I will also add in some garlic cloves for yummy goodness. But as far as salt and pepper goes, this will do the job nicely. I put in about a teaspoon and a half, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm gonna add garlic. I'm gonna call this 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna add just a little bit more because I feel like that's a lot of beef. Your flavor in this dish really does rely pretty heavily on your onion and your garlic. So let's go ahead and toss in our cumin. There it is. We want to do 1 tablespoon, which I am not going to do a whole tablespoon of cumin because I think it'll be too strong. We're going to do about a teaspoon. If you love cumin, go ahead and toss in that whole tablespoon. That is up to you. I do not love it, but I do know sometimes it's necessary. This is one of those times. So let's mix this party up. Make sure everybody is cooking evenly. Our ground beef looks like it's almost 100% done. All right, so you're supposed to let everything kind of boil away once you have the potatoes in there because they're using raw potatoes in some beef broth. I will do that for the flavor, but I'm not gonna do it nearly as much as what they say. So on here, the recipe calls for an entire cup. I'm gonna put in about a teaspoon of this beef bouillon powder. And then I will add about half a cup of water just to kind of give it that extra beefy taste. That looks about good. And then we'll let it simmer. The last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and toss in this can of tomato sauce. It is 8 ounces. That's all that's needed. And that is our last ingredient for this. been a couple of minutes in my world, probably like that for you guys. I did go ahead and finish simmering the picadillo, and it's over there in a dish cooling. It is like molten lava hot, too hot for a bag. Washed out the pot. Why don't I own more than one soup pot? I am questioning my life choices right now. Because we'll be washing this and using it again in a minute. But we're gonna move on to our next dish, which is this zuppa. I think it's zuppa, I don't know. It's Olive Garden soup, y'all. It's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and link all of my recipes that I'm using down below in the description box. If you wanna make these at home, knock yourself out. I'll let you know up front if I'm making changes, just like I have on the other recipes. So for this one, it calls for Italian sausage. I do not like the taste of Italian sausage. My husband does not like the taste of Italian sausage. We will be using breakfast sausage. I did pick some up on clearance, go me. It is this breakfast sausage, and I got it for $1.79. This calls for £1.50 pounds. I'm sorry, that sounds like way too much. Gonna just do that 1 pound roll, and we're all gonna be happy. I'm gonna dice up an onion. I'm going to skip the crushed red pepper because, again, children. It calls for salt and pepper and garlic. I will be using my master blend, or whatever it's called, the blend, salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and I will toss in some of my garlic as I've done in every one of these. It calls for chicken broth. I am using chicken base and water. It calls for whole milk. I will add some milk to this one. 2 pounds of roasted potatoes. I am using my frozen potato shortcut. A large bunch of kale, which is about 5 cups. I bought a giant bag, so we're good there. Heavy cream, don't have any, don't want to put any in anyway, so we're just going to stick with our milk. I am going to add a cornstarch slurry whenever I get ready to serve this. It calls for a flour mix. I'm gonna skip that. I will do the cornstarch slurry the day that we reheat it. It just freezes better that way. Let's see, half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I will put that in, and you can garnish with Parmesan. But that's about the long and short of it. When I do get ready to heat this, I do have a package of tortellini in my pantry. And while we're reheating this on the stove or the slow cooker or whatever we do, I will toss that tortellini in there just to kind of bulk it up and make it last a little bit longer. So anyway, let's get to cooking. Okay, just so everybody knows, I did check online and it does say that this soup freezes beautifully. I know dairy does not always freeze well, and in fact for our broccoli soup we're going to leave the dairy out of that one because it will not freeze well. I think it has more to do with the cheddar cheese that you add in there, but I checked a couple of different places and recommendations are high for freezing this soup, so I feel pretty good about it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and toss in some salt, pepper, garlic powder, about a teaspoon. Then I'm going to toss in some garlic. Again, cooking with Courtney, we're going to toss in a lot because we like garlic. If you're using whole cloves of garlic, The recipe calls for 4, so I'm not putting in that much extra. All right, I'm gonna saute all of this together for just a minute. And I'm gonna add in our potatoes. It calls for 2 pounds of potatoes. That is a lot. This bag, when I started out, was 2 pounds. I am not going to add any more than what's in here, probably not even that much, because I'm going to bulk this up with some tortellini. And I feel like if I add too much potato, the tortellini is not going to work with it. So it definitely wants more potato than, you know, sausage and all that. All right, so sausage is super salty, and I did add some seasoning, but I'm kind of just feeling like, oh, it's going to be a little bit bland, even if I cook it with chicken broth. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of my seasoning. There we go. We're going to cook this for just a minute or two, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken broth ingredients because my potatoes are not raw. Before they freeze these potatoes, they do blanch them, so they are not starting from raw potatoes. Once they heat through, they're pretty soft. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple of cups of milk at this point. The recipe calls for 3. I'm going to do 3. And whenever we get ready to reheat this, I will also add another probably like cup or so, because it does call for some more heavy cream in there that I will not be adding. So there is 1 cup. There's 2 cups. Yum. But one thing I do know I need is greens. I've got kale. This is triple washed, ready to eat. I purchased it that way just to make life easier. It calls for 5 cups. That's about 1 cup. That's about 2 cups. That's about 3 cups. A little bit over 4 cups. And there's 5. Okay, I'm gonna stir this a little bit, pop the lid on, and if I'm being honest, if I decide that I think it needs more kale, I may add some more. I think this will be okay, but you never know. So as you can see, this has definitely wilted down quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and toss in just some regular Parmesan cheese. It calls for half a cup. All right, guys, it is time to move on to our final dinner. I'm gonna do some broccoli cheese soup. This recipe says it's better than Panera. If it's half as good as Panera, I will be thrilled. I love their broccoli cheddar soup. If it's better than Panera, oh my gosh, I'm all in. Looks totally simple. I have made broccoli cheddar soup at home before, but I can't find my recipe. I don't think this is the one I used. That's okay. So this calls for butter, onion, flour, half and half or whole milk, chicken broth, broccoli, carrots, salt, pepper, nutmeg, black pepper, and sharp cheddar cheese. So I'm gonna be switching this up a little bit, as I mentioned before. So the dairy in this particular soup does not freeze well. Everything else freezes beautifully. So for today, I'm gonna go ahead and cook the onion, chop up the broccoli, get it all in the pan together with none of the flour, of course, but get all the liquids in the pan together, and the broccoli, the carrot, the whole bit. I'm gonna get all that cooked. So on day of eating, we will add in 2 cups of milk, a cornstarch slurry, and the bag of cheddar cheese that I'm gonna be freezing with it. It's already ready to go. The only thing we really have to work on is the milk. So this will be totally simple. And I'm thinking that I might actually just reheat this in the slow cooker and then add in the milk like an hour before it's ready to serve, stir in a cornstarch slurry about 30 minutes prior to serving, and I think it's gonna be beautiful. But if we're in a hurry or whatever, I will just do it on the stovetop. Either way works fine, really. Anyway, it was one of my favorite soups. I cannot wait to get this one done. And just like the last soup, I cannot wait to eat this one. So let's get to cooking. All right, I did not get my butter out, did I? Okay, let me grab my butter. Should I do butter or should I just use some of this? Guys, I'm just gonna use some of this bacon grease instead of butter just because it's here. I need to use it up. You know, bacon's flavor. How bad could it be? Famous last words right there, I'm sure. Anyway, let's go ahead and get some of this bacon grease in my pan. Let's see, this calls for, how much? Okay, this calls for a lot of butter to cook these onions. Like almost a 1/4 cup. I don't think we need that much. Anyway, I put that in, that's like 2 tablespoons worth of butter. That's what I feel like we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat on. There we go. God, that is so much heat. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dice up my onion. Anyway, in we go. Join the party, guys. Bacon and onions. Is there a better smell when you're cooking? Because I'm not sure that there is. Mix this all together. Let those onions do their thing. So this recipe did not call for garlic. I could have sworn it did. So I must be thinking of the recipe I used to use. That one must have called for garlic. I'm gonna follow the recipe today. I'm not going to put it in. So I'm gonna put this up. Okay, right now, while these onions are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and start chopping up my broccoli. You do want a fairly small chop on this broccoli. I mean, you don't wanna go nuts with it, but I mean, you wanna be able to get pieces of broccoli in your mouth. So you don't wanna go crazy with the pieces. I'm gonna keep mine pretty small. Okay, I keep trying to record this. I thought it was my batteries, and I replaced my batteries, and my camera keeps shutting off. What I was saying was, I chopped up my broccoli, I diced up my carrots, I tossed them all in here, sauteed them with 1 more tablespoon of bacon grease for about 4 minutes. Then I added in 2 tablespoons of my chicken base and 4 cups of water, stirred all that together, and I let it come up to just a simmer. And now I've turned the burner off, and I'm gonna let it cool, and I will put it in my freezer bag. And of course, when we're ready to serve this, we will thaw it, add in 2 cups of milk, 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, and a cornstarch slurry, and call it a day. That's gonna be that. Yay, that was our last meal. All right, guys, so that is 4 freezer meals, and they are not your traditional freezer meals. It's something a little bit different, something that is gonna be super delicious, and of course it's gonna be fall with cooler weather, so these are perfect for this time of year. I hope you guys enjoyed spending the day with me. I certainly had a really great time bringing you guys along for this. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, cooking freezer meals, regular meals, what I just call mom life, because it's stuff I do day to day just to keep my household running and stuff like that, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of the content I have coming your way. Till then, I will see you guys really soon.